Hi, I'm Mike Ignatoski, the creator of the PurpleWolf basketball spreadsheet, the spreadsheet that aims to help you get more enjoyment out of your tabletop basketball projects by doing a lot of the work, if not all the work, of tracking your team and players' game stats and season stats, as well as team standings and schedules. By doing that, you'll get more time to play your games, have more fun, and maybe take on projects that you wouldn't otherwise take on. In this video, I'm excited to talk about PurpleWolf version 2.0. It has two significant new features, such that that's why I'm jumping from version 1.2 all the way to 2.0, mainly because of these two significant features. And it also has several other moderate new features and enhancements to go along with those main features. So let's check it out. Here is the list of the main enhancements and new features contained in version 2.0. I'm not going to go through them all in detail here. I'll go over them one at a time, and while I talk about them in the spreadsheet, so we'll do that. But I want to mention that this is not the complete list, but it's just the most significant items or other subtle ones that are behind the scenes that I won't cover here. But let's go through these 12 while we're looking at the spreadsheet and go from there. Okay, now let's look at these features in the actual PurpleWolf spreadsheet. Let's look at number 1. So let me jump over to my score sheet. This is talking about reordering these stat columns. Oops. So here we are in the score sheet. I've got a game I just loaded, which I haven't started yet, and over here on the right in these stat columns, I've made them pretty much all visible so you can see what they look like now. And some are the same, but really what changes these ones in the middle here, now I have it after field goals, it shows the 2-pointers, 3-pointers, free throws, and then the rebounds, steals, blocks, turnovers, etc. So this is what changed. It's not a huge change, but it's a little bit different than what it was before. While I'm showing these, also these two columns here are new. This did not play, which when you validate your game stats, we'll fill this in with DNP if you're checking minutes and it has no minutes, or there's no stats here, it'll show DNP. And this is an additional player name column here that's controlled by this button up here, so you can not show it. This is kind of what it looked like before without this column, that you couldn't see their names here. But if you do want to see the names next to the total stats, maybe for screenshots or whatever, you can use this button here to show the player names. So that's, in addition to reordering the stats here, they're also reordered on all these other sheets in the stat sheets the same way. So you see here, these go in the same order as on the score sheet. Same with the team game log. Over here they go the same way. The season stats the same, etc. So the good news is that when you upgrade your 1.2 to 2.0, it takes care of getting all your stats in the right columns on this game log stat sheet. So you don't have to worry about that. The upgrade takes care of it. So that is the reordering of the stat columns or stat categories. Okay, on to I'm going to talk about 2 and 3 together regarding this manual entry of game stats. So let's jump back to the score sheet. Here's the game I just loaded. I haven't done anything yet. So you'll see right here, this is new, this stat entry mode. It says event logger. I'll also show down here on the options these number 12 and 13. It says here you can only have one of them on at once. But essentially, this one is determine which one you want it to default to in your spreadsheet. If you want the event logger as your default, you can use this. If you want the manual, so if I were to turn this on, it'll ask me and it'll turn the other one off. So that's how it works. But again, this is just what the default is. You can use both of them when you want to. It's just what the default is when you open up your spreadsheet. So I'll put this back. So back on the score sheet, this is the, if you want to change it or whatever, this tells you how your spreadsheet's set up. So this says event logger. So what that means is when I click this event logger button over here, the event logger shows up, and this is how I'm going to generate my stats for my game. But if I want to use the manual method for maybe a game I've already played, or I'm going to just score on paper and then put it in, I'll switch this. So if I hover here, you'll see it tells me that there's two ways to do it. You can use the event logger form. It says that's the default, but it's kind of by the standard game option, I guess you'd say, but you can make the other one the default. Or number two, the manual entry of the game result. And it says, click this cell or the one below it to change it. You can click either one of these and it'll prompt you. So if I click it, it asks me, do you want to change the score sheet, stat entry mode to use manual entry, the manual entry table. So if I say yes, it tells me that it's now the table has been unlocked. It'll automatically kind of shift me over. Let me close this a second. So if let's zoom this down. So now you can kind of see what the whole score sheet looks like here. So you can see here, this is what's new over here, this manual entry game result and stats table. So that's where you could enter a game result and use that instead of the game logger. So let me get this back to normal zoom level. So just a couple things about this, and again, I'm going to make a separate video on this whole feature. But now the stat entry mode thing says manual entry, and now if I wanted to click the event logger, it'll say it's not available if you're in manual entry mode. But basically, what that means is then this button here will kind of shift your screen over, so it moves it over here, and this one kind of shifts it back to view the score book. I consider this kind of the score book part. So these are just convenient ways to scroll over that. You can always scroll manually if you want to. But over here, then you'll see this is unlocked, and this is when it's unlocked, you can put numbers in these light blue cells. So you put your quarter scores and your player stats, and you could validate it, and then it'll come over here and populate this. So again, I'll make a separate video on how that works, but that is the manual, the new manual entry game result and stats table. It's a mouthful, but really it's just this table that allow you to enter the results of a game. You have to really have two things. One is the scores at the end of the quarters. And honestly, if you didn't have that on your score sheet, you could make up whatever you want, because really, in the end, it's really just looking at this total and matching up with the totals for the players. So, but this is I think a real significant new feature that people now have an option of how they want to enter their game stat data. So that is the manual entry feature. All right, let's talk about here number 5, 6, and 7 here. We have hover stats and the event logger. All right, hover stats. Excuse me. So here's the game I just loaded in the score sheet. Didn't start yet, but you can see, well, first I should look at the options. Option number 3 here is this hover stat, what I call hover stats. Or else it'll show the player season stats as a mouse hover tip for players in the score sheet lineup, and I have it on. So that it's on, you can see when I hover on these, you can see that red triangle tells me there's some kind of mouse hover information. And this is what you get. It's games and points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks per game. And then those different field goal percentages, the assist to turnover ratio, and double doubles. You can see here there's a different, and in this league, which is a playoff custom league that again, I got courtesy of thanks to some score sheets provided by Joe Brooks. That's where this is coming from, the 77 playoffs. Anyway, so there's no 3-pointers in this, is what I'm trying to say, and that's why that 3-point field goal percentage is blank. And so anyway, that's what how this works. You can see Larry Keenan's got 4 double-doubles in 4 games, averaging a double-double, which makes sense. What stats are in this pop-up are not configurable, at least not right now, so they're hard-coded. Those are the stats you get to see. And what it's showing is what's currently, I'll show you, in the player season stats table or page. So in order to have those up to date when you play your game, you'll have to have your season stats up to date. So if you want to see them, you'll need to make sure that you click this green button before you start your game, so it'll update your player season stats. And that's what shows in this hover. So that's the mouse over hover stats. The other thing next is the event logger. So let me show you that. So this is in manual entry mode. So I need to switch it over to event logger mode. So I can do that because I didn't start the game. So yes, I want to switch it. Now it tells me my manual entry stat table is locked. I guess I will show that, so now this is locked. When it was in manual entry, this was unlocked, which means you can enter data in these cells, but when it's locked, you can't. So let's jump over here to the scorebook. And now that this is in event logger mode, we'll click the event logger button, and it opens the event logger. And what's new in here, which isn't a lot, but a few things. But number one is the assist add-on event. So let's go with Mike Gale. Well, gets an assist. You can see when I click assist, it turns on these 2 add-on events down here. And this one is a made 2-pointer or a 3-pointer. So if Gervin, if Keenan made a 2, I click this here and it says he made a 2. Or maybe if Gervin made a 3, in order to do that, if I switch it to Gervin, first it puts it in the 2. But if you click it again, it'll go over to the 3. Click it again, it'll go off. So that's how you get the assist on a 3-point field goal. You have to click it 2 times for the player, and it'll put him over there. So then if I log this to the score sheet, you'll see here's the assist for Gale, a 3-pointer for George Gervin, and all the other things that go with making that 3-pointer. The other things that are new in the event logger is down here in the lower right. So now this period is simpler, I'll say. It just shows this what the current period is, which is basically just kind of copying it from this official scoreboard up here. And then I also added these 2 buttons here. This is these 2 help buttons. So if there's this event logger help, which if I click this, it brings up this thing, which is a little bit of a, color, geometry, shape, arrow overload, but other than the initial shock, if you just kind of go around, these just really explain what each section of this event logger form does. And it's brief, but it gives you the idea of what they're for. So again, you can leave this up if you wanted to and still carry on with your game. So that's that button. This other one is called the add-on events help. If I click this one, it gives me this pop-up help form. And this has just a table that describes which primary events are associated or have add-on events, if they have 1 and 2, and kind of how they work. So we just talked about the assist thing where it has this asterisk here, which just means to us where it explains how to get the 3-point field goal assist. You have to click the position label 2 times, like we did for George Gervin. But this kind of explains all the options. If you have a missed field goal or a missed free throw, that you have both add-on event 1 and 2 for an offensive rebound or a defensive rebound. Not offense. It's opponent defensive rebound or your offensive rebound. And this offensive rebound is kind of special, kind of like the assist, where if you click it once, it's the offensive rebound, but if you click it twice, it turns that offensive rebound into a putback 2-point field goal, just like the 3-point field goal on the assist. So it works the same way. And it mentions the other ones. If you make a field goal, you can get this assist. The and one, then this is where you assign the foul. Similar things with blocks and steals, but this just kind of explains which events have what add-on events. So those are the new help screens that are easily available within the event logger. And that's what's new with the event logger. Okay, moving on to number 8. This box score has added several stats and dark mode print prep options. If I go to my box score, here I have a box score for my game. So now you'll see it has more stats here, basically, than the last version. It's pretty much most all of the detailed stats from the score sheet, and now it also shows these percentages down here for shooting for the teams. So that's new. The prep for dark mode, if you want to take a screenshot or whatever, you can click this dark mode button here and it'll cycle through different color things. Those 4. Or this one you can go back to black and white. That's and just kind of setting it up. If you want to print it to a PDF or take a screenshot, that's what that does. So that is the new box score features, with the main thing being it's got more stats. So let's go back to this. This thing does have a new features thing now, which brings us to this list. Number 9. On the league sheet, you can enter a home arena. So let's look at that. If we go to the league sheet, so here's again, this is that custom 12-team 77 playoff league, and this is the area where you can enter this optional team's home arena. You can see I only put in 3 so far because that's for the games I've played, but you could put these in, and you could actually change them anytime you want to. But once you put them in, you would then go to your score sheet and click this reload league button. And that kind of doesn't hurt anything on your score sheet, but just kind of resets or reloads some of the game info in the background or in the memory. But one of the things are the colors and the arenas on that league sheet. So then if you wanted to go to the schedule, I'm going to unlock the schedule here for a second. Here's this. A lot of times, well, I'm not sure if by default it shows it or not, but you can show or hide the locations. I'm going to show this. And I do have this Laker game here, so let me actually go back to the league sheet. And I'll just the forum. Was it officially the Fabulous Forum? I'm not sure, but I'll just go with the forum. So then I'm going to go to my score sheet. I'll reload my league. Excuse me. Go to my schedule. And now, when I have this schedule location viewable, like it's showed, there's this new button here, this yellow one that says you can assign the game locations. So if I click when it's unlocked, so I have it unlocked, I click this button, and it says, do you want to fill in the blank game locations using the home arenas on the league sheet? I'm going to say yes. So hopefully then it'll fill in this Lakers one. Oh, actually, I'm going to say no because I realized this is a home for the Pistons. So let's go back here. Sorry about that. And 77, let's say that's Cobo Arena. So put that in there. This is more complicated than it ought to be. Okay, so now let's do this. Yes. So you can see it says I've done it, and now I put it in Cobo Arena. And all this really does is that when you load a game into your score sheet, that up in here you can see this one, it would list the location of the game just to kind of, I'll say, enrich your score sheet. Those are those features. Let's keep going here. All right, number 10. On the stats, on the PSS sheet where it computes the season stats for players that play on multiple teams in your season. Okay, so for this I want to show a different spreadsheet. Yeah, this one here. This 74 ABA thing that I have going. And here you can see I'm on the PSS, the player season stat sheet. And I sorted it by the player name here. You can see it kind of shows that it's sorted. And if you go down, you look at this Bob Nedelicki. You'll see he had some games with the Pacers and San Antonio. And here's now the new feature of is this total. So it uses the team ID of TOT, which also you can't have a custom. In a custom league, you can't have a team with that team ID of TOT for this reason. But you can see here, this is just then, if you add up these top two rows, you'll see that's what his totals are. So that's the new feature of gracefully handling players that play for multiple teams. Okay, we're up to 11. The period event logs contain the game score and can populate the score tracker table. Let's see what this is about. Let's go to our score sheet. I've played a few more possessions in this game. You see the score is 10-10. I'm going to close this event logger just so we can see more stuff. So if you recall, so down here in these below the scorebook part is the period event logs table section. So you can see here are the events so far. And what's new in here is it keeps the score of the game. So if I click one of these, you'll see now it kind of deciphers this kind of cryptic data here. Like in this example, it says, in the first period, the Spurs, George Gervin missed a two-pointer. There was an offensive putback by Billy Paltz in the post-event score. So after this putback, as far as Spurs-Sixers go, it was 5-4. Then I could delete this if I want to, but I'm not going to delete that. So I'll say no. But that's how it keeps the score. And over here on the right, here's this button. Here's the score tracker table. And you can kind of see here, this is, let me just close this a second. This is, again, it says coming soon in a future update because it isn't here yet, but this is kind of setting up for it. There's this score tracker table, which will be used to create a graph kind of like this that would show the scores of the game as it progressed through the game. So what we'll do here is, even though we're not done, I'm going to click this button here to populate the score tracker from the event logs. So if I click this button, you can see here it fills this in. So it tells me the quarter and then the visitor and home team scores as the game progressed. So each time one of these numbers will change. So it starts out at 0-0. Then you can see the Spurs score, and then the Sixers score. So it's 3-2, etc., etc. So as you can see here, this is, when you're done with your game, we'll be able to click this, grab this data, and even now you could grab it and copy it if you want to make your own score or game tracker kind of chart. You could, but then in a future update, I'll have it so that you can use this to create this cool kind of chart to see the score tracking of your game. So that's what that's about. Okay, we're down to number 12, which has to do with the welcome screen, and there's a new button there that will launch a video on demonstrating how to upgrade your PurpleWolf spreadsheet. So let me jump to this. This is what it'll look like when you first open up version 2.0, and you can see here is the new button. So there's the button here to upgrade your existing PurpleWolf if you already have a PurpleWolf project that you've started. And if you're not sure how to upgrade, I would suggest you click this button and it'll open up your browser to the YouTube video that demonstrates and describes how to upgrade your PurpleWolf spreadsheet to the current version. So, and that I think is the end of my feature list. So in summary, as far as the version 2.0 PurpleWolf features and enhancements, it's got a lot in it. There's some smaller things that I didn't list here that are just maybe subtle or all behind the scenes. And again, I'm going to make 2 additional videos that go into detail of how to do the manual entry for game stats and how to import game results from another spreadsheet. So be watching for those if you want to learn that. But I'm excited to finally get this version done. I feel like with this version 2.0, the PurpleWolf spreadsheet is nearly or basically on par with the Blue Lynx and the Green Fox spreadsheets in general. And I'm happy that it only took 2 releases to get there, and that's kind of the, I guess, advantage of having the other ones already done, that a lot of the feature work code-wise is available to modify and apply to this PurpleWolf basketball spreadsheet. So anyway, I hope 2.0 treats you well and you can make the most of it with your projects. That wraps up this PurpleWolf basketball spreadsheet video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to box out.